Welcome to the Executive Coaching Podcast, where executive coach Alicia Cowan will discuss leadership topics and coaching solutions to tackle the most difficult problems that keep you from leading your team to success.
Hey there, senior leaders. It's Alicia Cowan. Welcome back to the Executive Coaching Podcast. I've been in this summer reset mode. I recorded an episode a couple episodes ago about it. And part of the summer reset, I've been going through a health journey. So I think I told you a couple episodes that I've been recovering from a surgery. And as part of my prescription from my doctor, I'm supposed to be walking a lot. And so I've been walking a lot lately around my neighborhood and adjacent neighborhoods and just giving myself a lot of time to do a reset. I hope you're having a great recovery summer from all of the, beginning half of the year and also resetting yourself in the season where I believe it's sort of built for rest and relaxation in my mind. I think even growing up in the US and always having summers as a break, it is a time of the year that I believe it just is so rejuvenating. The days are longer, the weather is great. It's my favorite season. And so next week we are headed out on a vacation for the week of the July 4th week. So I'm recording this a little bit in advance of when it'll go live. And as a part of that week, I also have my wedding anniversary, which is on the 5th. It'll be my 6th anniversary on the 5th. So we're going to be doing a little bit of celebration. So I'm really excited to do that. And so I want to bring up this topic of executive presence today. It's my second episode recording on this. I did last week an episode all about how I find sometimes when we give the feedback of executive presence, it can be really vague. And for the person delivering and for the person receiving, it really helps to get some clarity around what you actually mean around executive presence. And so if you're starting from the beginning and you haven't listened to that episode, go back and it can be helpful if you're tuned into this topic of executive presence. But today we're going to dive into another aspect of executive presence. And I think it gets so much airtime within corporate America in general. And whether you're giving or receiving the feedback, maybe it's in a performance review setting, or, maybe it is post presentation. After a big presentation, you're either giving it or receiving it. It's something that comes up often. But a lot of times it's really hard to have very clear, honest conversations about it. And I think there's a big truth that when delivering the feedback, most people haven't done the work and the research to really understand the depths of executive presence and what it actually means and how you can really deliver high quality feedback on it. And so I've been really diving into this topic myself in terms of research and reading and listening to what is out there in the world. And so here's a truth that, after reading and consuming a lot of different content on it, I want to distill it down to something that's, I guess, simple in theory, but complex in application. The truth that a lot of people just don't say with clarity is that presence doesn't start with what you do, meaning your actions and your behaviors. Executive presence starts with what you think. So let's get into that topic. So executive presence starts in the mind, and most leaders want to know, what actions do I need to take in order to show up with executive presence? I get this question a lot. People, again, want clarity. They want to be told exactly what to do, what steps to take, and how to behave in a way that others will start to think and be triggered to think that this person has executive presence. However, starting with the action, I believe, is the wrong starting point. And I think we have to reverse engineer this process. This is where coaching can help come in, because it helps leaders uncover that executive presence is less about being performative and performance. It's more about internal alignment. All right, so what does that mean? Well, to back that up, The real work with executive presence starts with understanding the thoughts and the subsequent feelings that are going to fuel those actions. So let's get real. Let's get really like tactical and tangible about it. A lot of times, if you're preparing to walk into a meeting and some of the underlying beliefs might be somewhere along the lines of giving yourself these thoughts of, I don't belong here. Or maybe I don't really have anything valuable to add to this conversation. Or maybe you're feeling imposter syndrome and you're thinking, like, I'm going to be found out in this meeting that I'm an imposter. Or something along the lines of not feeling good enough or not having enough value to add or just not being in the mindset. Or maybe you're not even just, it could be something very simple like, I'm not really even interested in this topic, or I don't understand enough about this topic. Well, any of those thoughts, right? So if you're walking into a meeting, these are some of the, again, you may not be like consciously, these might not be in the forefront of your eye, these might even be like underlying currents of thoughts. But if you have any of these, whether they're in the forefront or running in the background of your mind, well, guess what? If you think that you don't belong in that meeting, you will then feel less than, you'll feel, and then come up, it's showing up as feeling small. Maybe you'll come up showing meek. Some of your activities, your behaviors could show up as anxious, maybe hesitant. You will act according to what your thought produces. Okay. So you will in turn make that true. So that is why it's so important to uncover what that like conscious or subconscious thought process is, because it helps you show up in a way that you want. So here's the coaching lens I want to put on this. We're going to do what I call like a thought inventory or a thought audit. This is where coaching can change the game. So what I will help clients do is we'll walk through and talk through what some of those thought processes are. We'll talk through a thought audit. What this will look like is just an honest look at like what is running through your head in those critical moments. It's like a stock ticker. You have so all this stuff running across the screen of your mind. So you have this analogy where we think, as humans, I think it's 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And so if you think of your mind like this little stock ticker, it will have all of these thoughts just like running through your head during some of these critical moments. And so an important part of being coached in the thought audit is being able to pick out some of these key thoughts that might be holding you back. And here's what often surprises people after we work through this thought audit. So even senior executive leaders, the ones that are at the top of the food chain and the corporate ladder, the ones that are leading massive teams in really big companies, they still deal with some of these imposter thoughts. They might deal with a lack of confidence. And when they're in coaching situations, it helps create the safe space to pull some of those thoughts out of the stock ticker running across your brain. It helps to question those thoughts and really challenge, even if they feel like a very deep ingrained belief, you can question them because thoughts are just our subjective opinions. They are not always necessarily factual. And so we get to question and decide if they still serve the leader that you want to be. So I'm going to give you another analogy again, because I'm in this like mode of summer reset and I've been like cleaning out some of the spaces in my house that I want refreshed for the back to school season. And so when you do this thought audit, it's like cleaning out like that mental junk drawer in your house. You know, the one that's like filled with all kinds of like men's stuff that you just, it's like the catch-all, it's like the mess and the like mayhem that you would like throw into the drawer. And it starts out with like a really good intention where it's like certain things are placed in there that you're going to need. But then all of a sudden, if you're like me, you're like, oh, last minute cleaning off the counter or something, and you just start piling stuff in there, right? And then lo and behold, here I am a year plus later, and I'm looking in the store and I'm like, what is even in here? What's going on? So it's like that. So that's the analogy. And a lot of us don't ever stop long enough to examine what is in our mental junk drawer. We don't stop and pause to look at some of these thoughts. We just like assume them to be a part of our beliefs and inherent to who we are. And we really don't stop long enough to see what is actually holding us back. There is something such as upper limit beliefs that hold us back, basically. It's like that glass ceiling metaphor where it's like you have some of these mental beliefs that will stop you from ascending to the next level of leadership. And that's where you can really come in handy, is to start to clean out that mental junk drawer by doing a little thought audit. So here's how we can then move forward. So the next step is really about this inner shift. It's about challenging some of these beliefs. And some of these beliefs are, believe me, are so ingrained that they feel factual, they feel truthful. This is where the fun for me in coaching comes in, because when I point out to a client that the facts that they, or excuse me, the thoughts that they've been thinking feel factual, but they in fact are not, they're sometimes completely blown away. They just feel so well worn within our brain. They feel like these patterns that just must be true. And when you challenge that, even within your own thinking, it can really be illuminating, because coaching will help you separate what your identity is from this like narrative that you've chosen to believe over time. So you may have that voice that says, you're not good enough. It might be this voice is just this old conditioning. And coaching helps you believe new thought patterns that can be both powerful to you and combo that with believable. Okay. So here's the next phase of this. You can then step into some tools to try. And these are called like thought reframes. So here's my big asterisk on this. Here's the catch. I'm a coach that I do not believe in toxic positivity where, you just pick a thought and you slap on a fake affirmation and you just hope it sticks, right? I'm not someone that, doesn't believe in really feeling your feelings and understanding what you're feeling and trying to ignore it, or trying to force it down and just stuff like this happy smiley label trying to move on from there. It doesn't work. And I've seen this in action. So I'll give you an example. If you walk in and you're feeling like you're not enough, but then you're trying to, identify that thought, but then you try to convince yourself, like, I'm a confident powerhouse, when you're panicking inside and you do not believe one iota of that statement at all, it does not work. I repeat, will not work. Okay. So instead, you have to try something maybe closer to what you might believe, that feels like more like what we call a bridge thought, that will help you have a stepping stone to the, again, a bridge to actually believing a deeper, maybe more powerful thought. And again, these bridge thoughts, I'm going to give you some options here, but they have to feel true to you. They have to feel right. So it could be like, instead of being like, I don't belong here, you could instead try something like, I'm here for a reason in this meeting. Or maybe you're just going to try to like build the muscle of your executive presence. So you could say, hey, today is a practice run in building this muscle. Or maybe it's like, my role here in this meeting is to bring some clarity. Or could, like, if you're the competitive type, or like you like the ability to check something off of a task list, you could say, I'm just going to ask one powerful or strategic question during this meeting. And again, these are just some examples of what I call bridge thoughts. In coaching, what we do is we build these step by step. And what we'll do is we'll come up with some thoughts together. We will test them. And truly, what we have to do is we have to find the ones that feel just uncomfortable enough to stretch you, but true enough to believe. That's the trick. Again, we're not trying to stuff down feelings and then slap this like overcoat of a positivity label on top of it. It'll never work. So you want to test what do I call bridge thoughts. And again, I've offered you some suggestions here, but this can absolutely help you in going to maybe a more broader thought. Again, I gave that example. I'm a confident powerhouse. It might help you bridge your way there. You might never get there. That's okay. That's not the goal here. The goal is to help you show up in a different way that feels true and authentic to you. So, here's what I want to give you as a skill to practice. What you want to do is you want to disconnect from some of these adjectives, okay? So rather than saying to yourself, I need to feel confident, confident is just a descriptor, it's just an adjective, right? Instead, what you can do is ask yourself, how do I want to feel after this meeting takes place? Who do I want to be when I show up in that room? And what energy do I want to bring? And all of that is focused on the outcome. And absolutely, confidence could be the adjective of how you want people to describe you, but putting it into actions and disconnecting from the adjectives can really help you put some things into practice when you step into that room or virtual setting. Okay. So coaching can help you do that. You align that intent and that outcome with what impact that you want to make. And here's the thing, it is not about faking it. That whole phrase, you fake it till you make it. Again, that will work in the short run. So I don't want to even try to pretend like faking it till you make it is not a thing. You can't fake it till you make it till the short run. However, it will not be sustainable over time. Executive presence is truly about conditioning. It's about conditioning your mindset. Again, there is a component that is a skill set as well as a physical element to showing up to a meeting with executive presence. However, the mindset is driving everything else. So conditioning it is just like going to the gym and working out a muscle. All right. So how do you bring it all together? The mindset, the skill set, the physicality of executive presence. Well, here's the thing. You cannot fake executive presence sustainably, as I said. If your mindset doesn't align with your actions, people will suss this out. They're going to smell it in the room. They're going to feel the disconnect. And that is why this work matters so much. It's why coaching matters so much. And getting the feedback when you're in those settings is huge. We build mental conditioning, these strategic skill sets, and then we build up the congruence with how you want to lead and how you want to show up. And I will say this, it can be really uncomfortable at first. And so this is not something that can just happen overnight where you take your executive presence and you put a couple of things into practice and you've got it. It's going to feel uncomfortable as you stretch within these different practices time over time. So yes, it's uncomfortable, but that's what growth is all about. It's about pushing ourselves and making ourselves stretch into places that we've never been before. And so that is absolutely part of the table stakes, what it means to be a leader. So final thoughts here. As you're stepping into your own authentic executive presence, you are not trying to become someone else. You have these skill sets within you. You're just building upon them and building up your own version of your executive presence. It should be anchored for you in clarity of who you are, but also a little bit of curiosity about who you want to be. And then those two things have to be congruent. Knowing who you are, anchored in your values, and curious about your future self and where you want to go. And then aligning them to make sure it feels authentic. And lastly, coaching. Coaching is this container that can help you do this work with that smidge of accountability and helping keep you honest to uncovering some of those thoughts that may be holding you back. Like I mentioned, that thought audit is so powerful. And absolutely, you can do this work on your own. But at times, we may be just oblivious to some of those thoughts that are sneaky and maybe a limiting belief that are holding us back. So for you, if this is the work that you want to do with me, I absolutely am in the midst of a summer reset coaching package. And so if you want to go deeper this summer into this work, I am working through with a couple of clients in a way that will completely reset and set the table for fall so that you are ready to go into the back half of the year. It is 6 private one-on-one coaching sessions that will help you reconnect to your leadership identity, that will help you build executive presence from the inside out. We'll focus on this mindset. And then you can go into Q3 really super focused with high energy and with confidence. So, like I said, I'm working through a limited amount of spots through July 31st. If you want to reach out to me, it's super simple. You just go to my website. It's aliciacowan.coaching.com, ELISIAKEOWN coaching.com. There is a work with me button right on the homepage. So you can click on that, reach out to me. We can talk through what's next. So let's do this work together. Let's realign your mindset. Let's get your executive presence sharpened up. Let's reset your leadership so you can wrap up this year so strong. I am cheering you on. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time. Talk to you soon, friends. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Executive Coaching Podcast with Alicia Cowan. If you're ready to have an executive coach who's ready to help you lead your team to success, then book an introductory call at aliciacowancoaching.com/call.